Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the noise to bring you the signal. Today we're diving into, well, a really pivotal document from the White House. It's Executive Order 12212, signed back on February 13th, 2025. And it's got this bold title, Establishing the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission.
Quite a title.
It is. And our mission today is pretty clear. We want to unpack this order. We need to understand what it could mean for the health of, well, everyone in America, but especially our kids, and maybe how it could fundamentally reshape our healthcare system.
Right.
Because this isn't just, dry government language. It feels like a pretty significant declaration about where we are with health in the U.S.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, I think, is that this order, 12212, it isn't just focused on one little health issue. It's really a comprehensive response to what it calls a major national crisis. It signals potentially a really significant policy shift.
And where are we getting this info from? Just so everyone knows.
Good point. So our source here is the Federal Register. That's the official journal of the U.S. government. This executive order, this presidential document, was published there on February 19th, 2025.
Okay.
It's basically the official daily publication for rules, notices, executive orders, the authoritative record.
Got it. So the official source. Now, what's the why behind this? What's driving this sense of urgency? The order kicks off with a section called Purpose, right? And it paints it's a pretty stark picture.
Yeah, it really is. Alarming, frankly.
It starts with life expectancy. It says the U.S. lags behind other developed countries quite a bit. We're averaging about 78.8 years, while similar countries are up near 82.6 years.
That's almost a 4-year gap.
Yeah. And they calculate that out across the population. It's something like 1.25 billion fewer life years for the U.S.
Wow. That's staggering when you put it like that.
It really puts it in perspective, doesn't it? It's not just a number. It impacts families, communities.
Yeah.
Then it talks about chronic conditions being like the norm.
Yeah, the stats are pretty sobering. 6 in 10 Americans have at least one chronic disease.
6 in 10.
And 4 in 10 have 2 or more.
Wow, okay.
And that's before you even get to mental health,
Right.
where it's about 1 in 5 U.S. adults living with mental illness.
So basically, chronic physical and mental health issues are widespread.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, like global comparisons, it suggests that, despite spending enormous amounts on healthcare,
More than anyone. Okay.
way more, our approaches just aren't delivering the results compared to our peers.
Yeah.
Some of the comparisons in the order are quite striking. Take cancer rates in 2021.
Okay.
The U.S. had the highest age-standardized incidence rate out of 204 countries evaluated, nearly double the next highest.
Double.
And maybe even more concerning, from 1990 to 2021, the U.S. saw an 88% increase in cancer. That was the largest percentage increase of any country they looked at.
That's deeply worrying.
And it's not just cancer. Asthma, for example, more than twice as common here in 2021 compared to most of Europe, Asia, or Africa.
Huh.
And then you look at things like autism spectrum disorders, ASD, or autoimmune diseases like inflammatory bowel disease, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis. The U.S., as a high-income nation, shows a distinctly higher prevalence there too.
So across the board, for adults, the picture is not great compared to similar nations.
That's the clear message from the order, yes.
Yeah.
It points to a systemic, widespread health crisis.
Okay, those adult stats are definitely concerning, but then the order seems to really pivot, doesn't it? It highlights this alarming trajectory, as it calls it, for children's health.
It does. And this is where I think for many listeners, especially parents or maybe people thinking about starting families, this hits really close to home.
Yeah, these aren't just abstract numbers. So what does it say? Well, in 2022, it estimates 30 million kids, that's over 40% of all children, had at least one health condition.
100%.
Yeah. Allergies, asthma, autoimmune diseases.
Wow.
And the rise in autism spectrum disorder, ASD. It's described as dramatic, now affecting 1 in 36 children in the U.S.
1 in 36. What was it before?
The order says it was something like 1 to 4 out of 10,000 kids back in the 1980s.
That's an incredible increase.
It's a huge jump.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. It mentions adolescents, too. 18% with fatty liver disease.
Which used to be mostly an adult issue linked to alcohol around.
Exactly. And nearly 30% of adolescents are pre-diabetic. Over 40% are overweight or obese.
So these chronic issues are starting much, much younger.
That seems to be the core concern here.
And it really raises that question, doesn't it? If we're spending so much, if we have all this medical technology, why are we seeing these trends, especially in kids? What is fundamentally not working?
Right. Does the order offer any potential explanations?
It does point towards some areas. One phrase that stands out is an over-reliance on medication.
Ah, okay.
It uses ADHD as an example. Over 3.4 million children now on medication for it. That's up from 3.2 million just a few years before, around 2019, 2020.
And diagnoses are still climbing, it says.
Yes. And the order links this broader health decline to other societal costs, too.
Like what?
Well, national security, for one. 77% of young adults don't qualify for military service, often because of health issues.
77%? That's huge.
It is. And then there's the economic cost we touched on earlier, that $4.5 trillion annual healthcare bill.
Yeah.
The order states that 90% of that goes toward treating chronic and mental health conditions.
90%. So almost all of our healthcare spending is managing existing conditions, not preventing them.
That seemed to be the implication. It's a massive cost that affects everyone, through taxes, insurance premiums, especially if you're in that sort of 25-50 working and family-raising bracket.
Okay, so the picture is pretty bleak. The purpose section lays out this crisis. What does the order propose to do about it? It can't just describe the problem.
No, it definitely shifts gears. It declares a new direction. There's a line. To fully address the growing health crisis in America, we must redirect our national focus.
Redirect. Okay.
It calls for fresh thinking
Yeah.
across a whole bunch of areas. The ones you'd expect, maybe. Nutrition, physical activity, healthy lifestyles.
Right.
But also explicitly that over-reliance on medication and treatments, again.
Interesting.
And then it broadens out. Effects of new technological habits, environmental impacts, the quality and safety of food and drugs.
So it's looking beyond just individual behavior or healthcare delivery.
Very much so. And significantly, it emphasizes restoring the integrity of the scientific process.
What does that mean in this context?
It talks about protecting expert recommendations from sort of inappropriate influence and increasing transparency around data, making sure the science is solid and trustworthy.
And the overall goal?
The stated goal is to shift the healthcare system towards actually promoting health, not just managing disease.
That sounds like a fundamental shift.
It really does. It's framed as a comprehensive reevaluation, not just tinkering, but looking at the foundations, science funding, food systems, everything.
So how does that translate into actual policy? Section 2, I think.
Exactly. Section 2 is titled Policy. It summarizes the new direction. It says the federal government will aggressively combat these health challenges. And the key focus is on reversing chronic disease, not just slowing it, but reversing it.
Reversing. That's ambitious. What are the main policy points?
There are basically 4 key directives laid out. First, federally funded health research needs to be transparent. Open source data, eliminating conflicts of interest, empowering Americans with the facts.
Okay, transparency and integrity in research. What's second?
Second, agencies like the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, should prioritize what the order calls gold standard research into the root causes of sickness. Why are people getting sick in the first place?
Root causes, not just treatments for symptoms.
Precisely. Third, agencies need to work with farmers. The goal is to ensure U.S. food is the healthiest, most abundant, and most affordable in the world.
Healthiest food that connects back to nutrition.
Right. And fourth, it calls for expanded treatment options and more flexibility in health insurance coverage, specifically to cover beneficial lifestyle changes and disease prevention efforts.
So making prevention and lifestyle changes actually accessible and affordable through insurance.
That seems to be the goal, yes. It's a broad policy framework.
Okay, so you have the problem laid out, the policy directions set. How do they plan to implement this? That's where the commission comes in, right?
Exactly. Section 3 formally establishes the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission.
And who's on it? Is it just the health department?
No, and that's quite significant. It's chaired by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, yes. And the assistant to the President for Domestic Policy is the Executive Director.
Okay, high-level leadership.
Very. But look at the members. Secretaries of Agriculture, Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Education, plus the heads of the EPA, FDA, CDC, NIH.
Wow, that's on everybody. Agriculture, housing, education, environment.
It's a real whole-of-government approach. It signals they see this health crisis as deeply interconnected with, well, almost every aspect of society.
That makes sense. If you're talking root causes, they could be anywhere: food, environment, schools.
Precisely. It shows they recognize these aren't just siloed health problems, they're systemic.
Okay, so this big cross-agency commission is set up. What's its first job? Where does it start?
It gets very specific, actually. Section 4 clarifies the initial mission. And that initial focus is squarely on the childhood chronic disease crisis.
Ah, back to the kids. That seems crucial based on the earlier stats.
Absolutely. The Commission is mandated to advise the President on tackling that crisis first. They need to study its scope and, importantly, the potential contributing causes.
And what causes are they told to look at?
It's a remarkably broad list. The American diet, of course.
Yeah.
Absorption of toxic materials, medical treatments, that comes up again, lifestyle, environmental factors, government policies themselves, food production techniques, even electromagnetic radiation is mentioned.
Electromagnetic radiation, like from devices.
That seems to be the implication, yes.
Yeah.
And it also includes looking at corporate influence or cronyism.
Wow. They are casting a very wide net. Dinner tables, devices, toxins, policy, corporate influence.
It suggests they're really trying to leave no stone unturned in figuring out why kids are facing these health challenges.
And they're supposed to report transparently to the public too, right? And recommend solutions.
Yes, informing the public with clear facts and providing government-wide recommendations to, as the order says, end this childhood health crisis.
And it, again, very ambitious language. How do they actually start? What's the plan?
Well, Section 5 lays out a clear two-part initial strategy. It's quite detailed.
Okay, what's part one?
Part 1 is the Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment. They have 100 days from the order to deliver this.
100 days. That's fast. What's in the assessment?
It's got several components.
Yeah.
They need to compare U.S. childhood chronic disease rates to other countries.
Okay, benchmark.
Assess the threat from that overutilization of medication again. Also, threats from specific food ingredients, certain chemicals, other exposures that might cause chronic inflammation or disease.
So, digging into specifics, ingredients, chemicals, meds.
Yes, and crucially, it explicitly tells them to evaluate the prevalence and threat of specific types of prescription drugs for children.
Which ones?
SSRIs, antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants like for ADHD, even weight loss drugs for kids.
They're really putting prescription drug use in children under the microscope.
It appears so. That focus is quite striking.
What else is in that 100-day assessment?
Identifying best practices for prevention, nutrition, healthy lifestyles, evaluating existing kids' educational programs on health, assessing federal programs and funding related to this.
And you mentioned transparency earlier.
Big focus there. The assessment needs to ensure all current data, even unpublished analyses, are available, evaluate current federal health data metrics, establish a framework for transparency and ethics review, especially for industry-funded projects.
Trying to get a clear, unbiased picture of the data.
And explicitly restoring scientific integrity by eliminating undue industry influence and increasing methodological rigor. It's all in there.
Okay, that's the 100-day assessment. What's part 2?
Part 2, due within 180 days, is the Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy.
So, based on the assessment findings.
Exactly. This strategy will recommend how to restructure the federal government's response. The aim is to end current federal practices that might be worsening the crisis or are just ineffective.
And replace them
with, quote, powerful new solutions that will end childhood chronic disease.
There's that word end again. Very definitive.
It is. And to make sure they get broad input, the order mentions holding public hearings, meetings, roundtables, getting expert input, diverse perspectives.
So it's meant to be data-driven, but also incorporate wider viewpoints.
That seems to be the design. A comprehensive assessment followed by a strategic plan for action, focused initially on children's health.
Okay, stepping back then. What does this all mean for us, for the average person, maybe someone listening who's, raising a family or just trying to stay healthy?
Well, it's potentially quite profound, isn't it? This isn't just tweaking the edges. It's a call for a fundamental reevaluation of our environment, our food systems, our medical practices, how science is funded and communicated.
The emphasis on root causes and ending childhood chronic disease really does feel like a philosophical shift. It's not just about managing symptoms anymore.
Right. And think about how that could filter down into daily life. The food you see in the grocery store, if they successfully work with farmers on healthier food. The health information you trust, if they succeed in boosting scientific integrity and transparency.
Yeah, that's important.
The healthcare options available if insurance really does become more flexible for prevention and lifestyle changes.
So it could touch everything from school lunches to doctor's visits to what's on the supermarket shelves.
Potentially, yes. If the Commission's work leads to significant policy changes, the impact could be quite widespread, especially for families navigating health choices for their kids.
It really brings up a big question, though, doesn't it?
Which is,
How much are we as a society actually willing to change? Our habits, our expectations, what we eat, how we use technology, maybe even how we think about medicine.
that's the crux of it, perhaps. Real change requires shifts, not just from the government, but from all of us. Are we ready to embrace potentially significant changes to reverse these trends?
It's a lot to think about. So summing up this deep dive into Executive Order 12212, it really shows a clear plan, or at least an intention, to look way beyond the usual approaches, to ask some tough questions about why Americans, especially kids, seem to be getting sicker, and what it would take to actually change that trajectory.
Absolutely. It establishes this significant new commission with a really broad, incredibly ambitious goal. It's definitely something to watch.
Yeah.
And maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to consider. Mull over this. If this commission is successful, if it genuinely uncovers significant new insights into the root causes of chronic disease, particularly in children, what fundamental shifts would you actually expect to see? Not just from Washington, but right there in your daily life, in your community, maybe even within your own family routines. What changes would you personally be willing to make for a healthier future?
Powerful questions, definitely something to chew on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Executive Order 14212. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.